I call you doctor because you have a PhD. A lot of people don't. I don't know if they know that.
Yeah, I have a PhD, MBA, and I'm teaching 2 universities, and that's my passion. But it's up to you, Lise. You can either call me. I have many names: Mr. Knowles, Dr. Knowles, Mathew Knowles, Beyonce and Solange's daddy. So I have all 4 of those titles. I don't get caught up in that. In academia, I'm Dr. Knowles, but when it's not academia, I'm open to Mr. Knowles, Mathew Knowles. I don't know if you're old enough to call me Mathew.
Okay. Well, I'm in my 30s. I'm in my 30s.
That's not old enough.
Okay. So I want to ask you, we know a lot about you being Beyonce and Solange's dad, but we don't know a lot about you. So I want to ask you, how did you manage to go from a corporate executive, a music manager, an author, a professor, and now in PR so quickly and be able to adjust? Were you always even when you were in corporate America, were you always in marketing, like a marketing setting?
That's a great question because this semester at Prairie View A&M University, which is HBCU, I teach sport, events, and entertainment marketing. And my thing is fundamental marketing works across all disciplines. Okay. And so I was fortunate to have a great teacher, Xerox Corporation in the 70s, late 70s, and stayed at Xerox for 10 years. And I credit Xerox with a lot of fundamental sales and marketing acronyms that I learned over time. I had a degree in economics and one in business administration from Fisk University. So I've had the academia as well as the experience, 20 years in corporate America. So when I made the transition to the music industry, and you have to understand, there's been many transitions. My former wife and friend, Tina, we had a beauty and hair salon for 17 years that was ranked #1 in Houston. We actually was fortunate and grateful to make our first $1 million around 1985. So for those of you that think Beyonce made us, no, she would have been 4 years old and her parents were millionaires. Do the math. Okay. We didn't know anything about the clothing business. And we were fortunate. We started House of Darion, that then became also Darion and the Miss Tina brand at Walmart. And we were fortunate to sell that for $75 million to Leon Fung. It's public information. And then we got, I was moved into the music industry, sold Music World in 2002 for $10 million. And all this is public information, so anyone can Google it and find this out.
Know if in the beginning, if you guys were using other designers, because wasn't that true that you guys were responsible for a lot of those iconic looks that we saw?
I give all 100% of that credit to Tina, my former wife. She was the creative force and imaging of what the girls' look was. And obviously they had feedback because Kelly and Beyonce, we all live as a family, and Solange lived together. But I have to credit where credit is due. Tina was that creative force of the design of the wardrobe. And that was a very important piece of Destiny's Child, was the imaging.
Yes. Yes, you guys single-handedly changed a lot of the way we viewed groups and the physicality of it and all of the imagery of it, and you did an amazing job with marketing them, and that's why I wanted to really reach out to you. I want to ask you, because things are changing now. We're seeing a lot of people getting on the internet, and with a lot of the things that are happening in the Black Lives Matter movement, we're seeing progression. As a PR professional, I want to get your expertise. What are your thoughts on it? We're seeing a lot of artists who are stepping out in front of the camera, which was unusual back in the 80s and 90s. Artists weren't doing that as much. In the 60s, yes, 60s, 70s, but in the 80s and 90s, not as much. Where they're starting to really put out their opinions at the cost of losing certain opportunities. How do you feel about that? Do you think that this is something that we should see more of? Do you think that the way that some of the artists are doing this maybe should be handled a little differently? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm glad you said, because as you were talking, I was thinking at the cost of losing fans and opportunities. So you're absolutely right. You know, a lot of people don't realize when these artists, entertainers, athletes step out and speak up, they do pay a financial price. And I hope we appreciate when they do that and thank them for it, which often we don't. You know, I grew up in the 50s in Alabama, and this is a small amount of racism, which none of it is good. But compared to the 50s and 60s, what racism looked like in America was totally different. I've been beaten, I've been electric prodded, I've been spit on. And you know, I never went to a black school until I went to Fisk, my junior year of college. So I desegregated in the 50s and 60s, junior high, high school, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. And so I have looked racism in the eye in a different light. I've seen older men and women beaten unmercifully, begging.
If you're a creative, the industry is completely different now. You can make your own lane. You can get on YouTube. It seems like you don't have to go to the music industry. It seems like the music industry is coming to you. What would you say to those creators who are trying to break out in the digital era?
Yeah, I think that's a misnomer.
Okay.
It's a misnomer that there's certainly, as the lanes have opened up where you can, as a creator, the lanes have opened up that you can share content. But it doesn't matter if you don't know the knowledge or have the knowledge of how to market content.
Okay.
If you don't have the knowledge in the business knowledge on how to take that creative idea to dollars.
Okay.
I can create all day long, but if I can't convert my creations to money, and then, okay, I got access to let you hear. Look, there was a time when if you took a photo, and I'll use an example. It's maybe not a good example, but if you took an example of a building blowing up,
okay,
and you took that photo, there was a time that the media would pay $100,000 for that photo. Then they convince with social media for you to give your content away for free. So people giving away their content all day long for free.
So people should protect their intellectual property.
Well, most people listening don't know what even that means.
Okay.
Intellectual property. It goes back to knowledge.
Okay. So the biggest thing that you could tell someone coming up now is to get the knowledge. The content, great, but you also need to know how to be a business person, or at least business acumen.
Well, I think we all would agree that if you can't monetize it, what's the point? Other than ego, and often ego gets in our way. I want to give you a definition you've never heard of ego, because ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Normally I drop the mic on that. Okay. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Because that's basically a lot of ego people that do stuff just to look at me and don't monetize a damn thing.
Okay.
What's the point?
Do you dislike it though? Do you dislike social media and kind of what it's become? And
no, I use social media effectively. I get to message It's a beautiful messaging tool. I message. I don't care about wanting to conversate with you. That's not how I use social media. I use social media to as a marketing tool. It's an exceptional marketing tool. I'm not sure that when it comes to impacting how we think, it's used against us, because I've sat in those rooms in the creation of social media, in the creation of how it be used to manipulate young minds. And if anybody's paid attention to our last election, the Russians were found that they manipulated through social media Black people, targeted specifically Black people. Corporations and products are always using social media to get you excited, to cause a debate. I do it sometimes myself as a business tool. So I always say, just know it's the Jedi mind trick.
Okay. Does it make, but as a artist, isn't it easier for you to find artists now? Because the content is already there.
Yeah.
I would think that it makes it a lot easier as far as the entertainment industry for people who are looking for new artists to sign.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to apologize. I'm not speaking from just an entertainment perspective. I'm just speaking in general.
Okay.
But yes, the A&R, artists and repertoire that goes out and sign artists, it's a lot easier to go online. But that's not a social media thing. That's digitalization.
Okay.
Just like it's easier for me to talk to you now and not have to get on an airplane and get all dressed up. We have to make sure we understand digitalization versus social media. So digitalization has made it easier for us to find artists, because we can go to YouTube and we can find artists and we can see what type of numbers they're generating. So digitalization is what's going to mean after this coronavirus. A lot of people are going to be working from home. Digitalization is what has changed the restaurant and grocery store industry, where you order online and you get delivered. So I just want to make sure we differentiate the two.
Okay, I can understand that.
You're talking to Dr. Knowles right now.
Okay.
I'm in professor mode with you right now.
Okay, I can appreciate that, Dr. Knowles. I can appreciate that. And I want to talk to Mr. Knowles for a minute. So you're also a survivor.
Yeah.
How has becoming a fighter changed you for the better?
Well, it makes you look at and just really look at what is important in my life and our lives. I'm a cancer survivor. Let me just make that clear. I have the opportunity to save lives, and we've had that opportunity before in the music industry, especially with the song Survivor. But with cancer, I get to tell my message, and my story. I wear white t-shirts, and I noticed it's a drop of blood for 3 consecutive days. I told my wife, I don't know what's going on. Did you get new t-shirts or what? She says, why? And I said, I keep seeing this drop of blood. She says, that's crazy, because the last 2 nights I've seen 2 or 3 drops of blood when I clean the sheets on your side. Well, oh, wow. I did diagnostic imaging for 20 years. I sold mammography equipment, MRI, CT scanners, a neurosurgical specialist. That's what my corporate life was like. Okay. Most people don't realize that. That's a very unique corporate life. And selling mammography equipment, I know men can get breast cancer. It's a small percentage, and a lot of that is because most men are embarrassed to even say it. So I choose to change the wording to male chest cancer, because our chest area, men, we look at it differently than a woman, and out of respect to women, because that's a psychological challenging thing for a woman. It's not as challenging for a man. We wear our shirts off. You see us in movies, and so it's not the same. And I was diagnosed with male chest cancer. But I also, in this process, and I'm fortunate, early detection is the key to all of medicine. You find something out early, your outcome is better than if you found it out later. Mm-hmm. It's real simple. I keep life real simple. I don't get complicated. The earlier you find it, and how you do early, you simply go to the doctor on a routine basis. You get your exams on a routine basis. You understand also what I didn't know, genetics and how important genetics are and family history. And there's now, it's no excuse because you can have shipped to your home, saliva sample, shipped back, and you can get a snapshot of cancer, a snapshot of heart disease, and what your susceptibility is that you might get cancer or heart disease. It's not saying you're going to get it. It's just saying genetically you have a greater chance. So, you might want to get more annual mammograms, or you might want to get a prostate exam every 6 months. That's what it's telling you. I mean, there's a lot of companies that do that. I always like giving information. Invitae is the company that I use to understand my genetics. I'm BRCA2 mutated. And what that means is I have a higher risk of male chest cancer, which I got, prostate cancer, melanoma, and pancreatic cancer. So what that tells me is I have to get annual exams for those 4 things. Mm-hmm. And if something happens, I caught it early.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that you're doing much better now. At least it appears that you're doing much better. Are you in full remission?
I'm in full remission. It was stage 1A.
And I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Now, you're legendary in the music industry. You are a part of creating one of the most legendary groups of all times. What was that like, looking back at it, like that you accomplished something that has completely changed the stratosphere?
Well, I'm very proud, first of all, as a father, because Beyonce and Kelly and all the girls worked so hard for this. This has always been Beyonce's dream since she was a kid, Solange as well. So first of all, foremost, happy for them. But I'm most proud that they're good people. And in this crazy world of entertainment, you haven't heard any crazy stuff that Solange and Beyonce always laugh other than the elevator. But if you know Solange, that was just some sibling crazy that happens with kids. So I didn't take that like the world. And I'm grateful that in my lifetimes, I've been given several opportunities to impact the world through my cancer, to impact the world being the #1 sales rep in the medical division of Xerox in the world. That's a pretty heady accomplishment, 3 years being the best in the world. And so when you see my kids being the best in the world, I hope it's because they also saw their father be the best in the world, and what was required to be the best in the world. And what you do is keep out chatter and negativity.
Okay. I can appreciate that. And I'm a huge fan of Destiny's Child. Listened to them since I was young. And of course, Beyonce and Solange. So you did an amazing job with raising your children. Of course, I don't know them personally, but from on the outside.
Yeah, well, thank you. And how they give back to their community. But I do want to say one thing on that topic, because I'm at a point in my life that's where you leave your legacy. And I just want it told accurately.
Okay.
Most of the information is his story, and I'd rather tell my story, which is accurate and truthful. His story or history would have you to believe I quit corporate America to work with Beyonce and her group, little girl group, Girls Time. My first artist was Lil O, a rapper.
Okay.
And you can verify this by going to YouTube. Lil O, Can't Stop is the single. And you'll see it features these little girls called Destiny.
Okay.
You see, Girls Time became the Dolls, became Something Fresh, became Cliche, became Destiny, became Destiny's Child. This artist, Lil O, was on the #1 urban record label in the world, MCA, with Puffy, with Mary J. Blige, way before I got Destiny's Child a deal.
Okay.
History wouldn't want you to know that Earth, Wind and Fire last album, OJ's last album, Shaka Khan last album, Dion Ferris last album, De La Soul last album, Ray J last album, Shaka Khan and the London Symphony were all made on my record label. These are legendary people. See, history just want to talk about Beyonce and Destiny's Child. They don't want you to know a black man did that. See, his story never wants a black man to be credited for that type of impact.
Well, you have a music legacy. You do. And I think a lot of people don't understand a lot of who, because I've learned a lot from you just from speaking with you with the 45 minutes that we've been speaking. So I'm glad that I've actually gotten a chance to speak with you and to talk to you. Can you tell us about Music World and Music World Entertainment?
Well, yes, we
because that's where the artists work, correct?
Yeah, we have a catalog label. We have over 3,000 songs. I realized I had a strategy years ago. The most profitable record label in the world is a record label called Legacy, owned by Sony. And they're a catalog record label. And normally around 18 months, an album becomes catalog. And you're no longer having the artist go out and try to promote that album. You kind of moved on to the next one. Catalog albums are the most profitable because you're not spending marketing dollars anymore. And so it becomes a high profitable. My strategy was to always have not artists, but catalog. Now I had to start with artists to take it to catalog. Most of my artists, we had built the #1 gospel label with a partnership with Sunday Best from Leandra Johnson, who won a Grammy, was #1 gospel female artist, Vanessa Bell Armstrong. I also am grateful and fortunate to own Compadre Records, which is a country label. And this is all catalog. Catalog is, I do nothing, and I'm grateful and blessed that once a month I get a check. Mm-hmm. And that's really where you want to be. You don't want to be chasing artists and managers and doing the marketing because that's very costly. So if you make $10, you spend $8 on marketing.
Oh.
Versus catalog, you can do nothing and make $5.
Okay. Yeah, but I think that comes back to full circle of just the knowledge that you have, the education that you have, the patience that you have, the intellect of figuring out how to work smarter and not necessarily harder, which comes with, of course, experience over time. But are there any new labels or books? Because I know you've written
The DNA of Achievers, Racism from the Eyes of a Child, Emancipation of Slaves Through Music, Media and the PR in the Digital Age, Destiny's Child, The Untold Story, and I'll be launching a revision with 100 new pages of the DNA of Achievers. And you can go to MathewKnowles.com and you can find out. I'm a public speaker. It'll list all the topics. And I'm a college professor at Prairie View A&M. It will soon be announced at the Art Institute, the 8 campuses they have around America, and it will soon be announced University of Houston. And these are courses that anyone can take. I'll be teaching the music business next semester at University of Houston at Art Institute around the country online. All of this will be emancipation of slaves through music. And every other semester at Prairie View in the School of Business, I teach entrepreneurship or marketing.
Okay, and you've also been at Harvard as well, right? You
As a student right now at Harvard, literally a student. Ethical leadership is the course that I'm taking at Harvard in their professional development. But I lecture all over. I've lectured over 40 universities: Cornell, Harvard, Howard, Alabama, A&M. I can go on and on and on. Education is really, you might see my body change when I talk about education, because knowledge, as we started out by saying, is power. We emotionally, as people, we get extremely emotional about topics. We don't research facts. I'll say that again. We get extremely emotional. We do not research facts. And smart people operate on factual data, not emotional, not if I like it or dislike it. I want to know the facts.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think if we, especially, let's just take it back full circle with the time that we're in, I think that is the best piece of advice to give everyone. Make sure you have research, make sure you have the facts, and make sure you not only have them, but you understand them, so that when you speak, you can be knowledgeable about it, whatever the case may be as far as your opinion.
Well, we'll be announcing my podcast on iHeartMedia soon, called Mathew Knowles Impact. So that's my next meeting, is with my team at iHeartMedia. We'll be launching in November to give me a platform that I can do what you're doing.
Okay. Are you going to be on Charlemagne's new Black Effects podcast network?
No.
Okay. All right. So separate iHeart music.
Yeah. I'm at this point in my life. I'm a grown up. I do my own stuff.
Okay. Okay. But I want to thank you for coming to Millennials Anonymous. I know that you have another meeting, so I'm not going to hold you past the time. Well, you heard it here. He has a podcast. Make sure you go to iHeartMedia when that drops in November. I've seen this person on YouTube. I don't know how